Hey guys, EST here with a quick simple video that'll really help you that I really haven't seen other people cover. Let me ask you a question. Have you gone to a gun safety course, a cooking course, a foraging in the wild and mushroom identification course? Taking the time to learn how to sew and, fix your car and learn basic DC circuit electricity. I mean, everybody has their list of things that they haven't learned but they know they need to because it's pretty critical for an emergency situation. And of course, we all work on it over time. There's no need to rush out and do it all at once because that just overwhelms and burns people out. But you might think, oh, look at the amount of views and subs this guy has and all the content he makes. He must be, a total pro, and he must know absolutely everything. You would be shocked if I listed off like the top 3 things that I really should get to eventually, like learning or knowing or practicing or having more than a familiarity with. So look, we're all in it together, and I have determined that the number one reason is because it just reminds us of school, it looks unpleasant, or we just generally have no interest in it whatsoever. We know we need to learn it, but we keep putting it off and thinking, well, I could just do this instead. Oh, this is about equal. And then, years pass and, well, it's still not done. Now, if you're sincerely not interested in something, you're not going to have what they call retention because your brain will not mark it as important. So what's the point of learning it if you're not going to use it daily, you're not going to practice it, and you're not going to remember it because your brain's like, ooh, this is super critical information, write that down, this is awesome. So why don't I focus on a couple things that people absolutely do enjoy across the board. Now, everybody's different. Some people, like me, love inventory numbers and math and, checking the amount of calories I got and seeing if this is good and that's good. And not everybody's into that. So I thought I'm going to stick to the top couple that are almost universally enjoyed by everybody. So when you're burned out or you really got limited time, you can just focus on these and come out of it with a very positive attitude and raring to go on the next item. So starting off, we've got cooking. I'm not sure I've ever heard somebody say, I learned a whole bunch about how to cook and a bunch of new things, and I completely regret it. It was time completely wasted. Now, this is a prepper channel. This isn't a life tips channel. So don't fall into, oh, cool, I learned to make, 5 to 10 dishes really, really well. What you need to learn is why those dishes are the way they are, why the recipes work that way, why you bake something versus, pan fry it, or if you can do both, why this temperature is the way it is, why this ingredient instead of that, what's the difference between baking soda and baking powder. Because I'm not saying you could, become a chef and start making your own recipes. You need quite a bit of training for that. But in a survival situation, you don't want food poisoning or parasites or E. coli or any of that. That's for sure. And you also don't want to finally get your hands on some meat worth cooking and burn it, because that is a lot of lost time, investment, cooking, energy, everything. So what you really need to learn is just generally how to cook meat. And so I just focused on, let's do a couple fish fillets, let's do some chicken breasts or some tenders, or both, because one's way thicker. And let's do some basic cheap steaks, which, like a sirloin tip steak, which is one of the worst cuts of beef, but I don't mind it. Still, even in 2022, it's about $5-6 a pound where I'm at. It's a 1 pound steak for like $5-6. Come on, guys. So the temperatures, the colors, do you need oil, or is that just like a thing? You get into that, especially with assistance from, obviously, just start on YouTube. If you start with just a text recipe, they're going to make all these assumptions, like, for example, the fact that you know how to cook. But I don't know about you, but I love watching cooking channels. So I kind of picked up stuff like, oh, they're doing this again, or they explained why they're doing this differently than they've done it in the past. Okay. And then I don't need to know the recipe. I don't need to make the recipe. I just think, oh, okay, this is the better way to do this. And not just, oh, I'm going to take like a pretty good meal and make it amazing, because that's cool. You just need to be proficient enough to not screw it up, to make it edible and palatable. And once you got that going, it is astonishingly easy to just throw something together. You don't have to, turn your grocery shopping into some whole thing with lists and, different ingredients. Because then actually, I've noticed that when I did that, my grocery bills actually went up. Because the recipes, it turns out, and the quantities and all this stuff, and then stuff expiring, and you can't buy the exact amount that you need, it ended up costing me money. But if you're just like, oh, hey, this is on sale, oh, look, some pork, oh, look, some chicken, whatever, I could throw that into some noodles, some rice. I could, fry some rice, make fried rice. And just vegetables and fresh stuff, that's like nothing. I mean, I think I just bought an onion for like 32 cents. And let me just say, I'm really good at stir fries, but I find myself, running into like, even up until recently, I was never into baking. I barely knew how flour worked. Like, why do you let some bread dough rise and some you don't? And when would you do it differently? Well, I learned that pretty quick, because if I don't know how flour works, that's pretty bad. So, identify your blind spots, practice it, and save yourself some money. And then when you're done with every little cooking project, which while you're cooking, you just blast music, listen to my channel on a loop. Just kidding. Podcast, audiobook, whatever. Get minor chores done while stuff is baking. After all that, you get to sit down and enjoy a meal that's like restaurant good. I mean, if you don't cook commonly, don't underestimate how good it is compared to like even just fast food, which starts to feel just salty, cheap, and empty after you learn how to like really throw something together that's decent. And usually my meals are like $1 to $2. So I'm just saying there's no downside to this. That's why I led with that one. The second one is pretty simple. Airsoft. Preferably, I guess paintball, but I'll tell you why I don't like that. So paintball, little balls of paint. I don't know, they're probably like 3/4 of an inch, half an inch. They're pretty big. They hurt when they hit, but they're like 100 to 200 FPS usually, feet per second. Pretty low velocity. When somebody is firing across the whole map, I could actually dodge them after they left their barrel. I mean, that, if anything, it teaches you how not to really actually use a gun. They usually don't resemble guns. They all got similar barrel lengths and just, I'm not into that. Now, airsoft, 6mm solid plastic BBs. 400 to 500 FPS usually. So those things are cruising. You can't see them in air usually. And even long shots, you're sending them. It could be half the velocity of a 22. Just saying. Like, it's close. Now, they both sting when they hit you, but airsoft is a little bit less, but still, you get the consequences. Once you get hit once, you're like, okay, I would prefer that not happen twice. I'm going to take this seriously. And so, yeah, I said milsim because people, they just didn't appreciate my 9-pound full metal 41-inch M10 sniper rifle that had a full auto setting and a 400-round magazine. And 3 of them. That isn't very realistic. But, people stopped complaining when I went out there in the woods map with a pistol and got 7 kills. So, but, no matter how good you think you're on the range and you can kind of do draw and you can run around, do jumping jacks and sit at the table and fire at a target. Okay, cool. It's still different with people. People act different ways. They do different stuff. People have different levels of training. I was there with military people and 12-year-olds and old people who just thought it was fun. But man, I gotta say, like the whole use your ears and like I'm actually gonna get stung and eliminated, if I get shot. Like we're gonna actually do this. And like, was that movement this? Your eyes, your ears, everything. It's better than any video game or VR. There's no replacement for just going out there with a high velocity gun that's realistic, full metal with, mags and everything, and just focusing on the tactics part of it without having to get like nuts about gun safety. You better, practice good gun safety, but I've had people accidentally shoot me in the hand while I was reloading, and they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't know the spring went forward on the safety. Yeah, my bad. And I'm thinking, yeah, people aren't trying that hard, but boy, I'm glad that wasn't a real firearm. So I mean, everything from tactics to gun safety, from just getting out there and doing it and getting comfortable with it and being like, yes, I've done this before, so you can stress out less if it was real. It is intense, it's fun, it's enjoyable, everybody has an absolute riot, and if you ask somebody if they want to go do it, the answer is yes, unless they're completely insane. Now, most of the airsoft places I've found, you can just Google it, are indoors because they want to sweep up the BBs. If it's outdoors, which is usually paintball because they don't want to clean up the paint inside, and that is biodegradable. Usually they're not the same places, but I've had places where they're like, if you fire 100 rounds, it's going to get into the soil. Maybe we'll go dig it up or, put some sand on it, whatever. And biodegradable airsoft BBs suck. Let me just throw that out there. So finding a place to play legally, don't just go to some hunting lands. Somebody will call the SWAT team. But just the plastic portion of it is the really annoying point. But if you live near a kind of populated area, you can probably go somewhere and find an airsoft area. Although, it's a lot of square footage, so the one thing is you're going to need rentals, and rentals tend to be really beastly tough guns that are very heavy metal, good gearboxes, reliable, instead of cheap plastic crap that's unrealistic and low velocity, because it'll break after 2 people drop it. So, you go to a field that's just an all-in-one place, it's kind of cool. Then you don't got to drop, $200-300 on a really good airsoft gun yourself, because it's a bit of an investment when you got to go buy like actual guns after that. So there's a couple little general tips in case you're new to airsoft. I assume this is not, the airsoft enthusiast channel here, so I thought I'd over-explain that one other than, go out, do some milsim, do some stuff, and, get out there, work on your tactics, and learn from it. Because I thought I knew combat, everything. I thought it was the best there was, and then I went out there and got shot in the back. It was like, okay, maybe I should rethink this. Maybe I should, do this and that, do a flanking maneuver, watch for this, camp, which is sitting in one place waiting for them to come to you. Maybe this type of cover doesn't work. Maybe I'm not good at laying prone and firing. So if you can go play airsoft or something similar, absolutely do it. And paintball, I guess. So the last one, and I saved the best for last. Actually, before I get to it, I will say, a lot of the reasons that you're not doing the things that you know you need to do and learn is because there's alternatives and there's no accountability. So I would just, the best step, and this is the same for like weight loss or anything, ask any, I guess, psychologist, I don't know, doctor, who knows. Just people in general, they will tell you, you are not doing this because you are the one responsible for it. Everybody's used to growing up with authority figures and even at work or your parents or all that, school. You're doing it because somebody else is enforcing consequences, and then as soon as you get out, the house, move to college, move away, get a job, whatever, well, now you're only accountable to yourself. And that's when people just like let the dishes go, do this, do that, don't cut the lawn, and then it all, they either get their crap together or they live like an absolute lazy slob. Everybody goes through that to an extent. So what you can do is if you really need to like get the motivation to like force yourself to do it, I would either tell someone you're going to do it, and then tell everybody you're going to do it. Just say, I'm going to go learn this. It's my goal. I'm going to do this sometime this summer, sometime this whatever. And then even the fear of them bringing it back up and you saying, oh yeah, I put it off forever. I'm such a lazy procrastinator. Like, it's social pressure. It's one of the most powerful things. I mean, you can even say peer pressure, but it's one of the biggest motivating factors in human psychology because we want to fit into a society, because if we didn't, society would collapse and we wouldn't have worked out as civilized as we are right now, which is not very. And another thing is just pull the trigger and invest something in it. Money, time, plans, whatever. Plan, I'm going camping with this person. Oh, we're going to this person's thing. I'm going to call them up and say, yes, I'm for sure going. I'm bringing something along, to grill or whatever. And I'd like you to give me a basic grill thing. And once you told them, you better stick to it, because they're going to be, okay, I'm all set to show you how to grill. They're like, oh, I changed my mind. Oh, I didn't show up. Or just, hey, this person lives out in the woods. I could practice lighting a fire, because let me just tell you, no matter how much you think you know how to light a fire, you don't. That's a whole other video. But even I started lighting fires when I was like 6 years old. I know campfires, and once in a while I will still kind of lazy out and fail, or not doing it wrong, not lack of knowledge, but getting overconfident in my skills and then having that not match the materials. Everybody on YouTube, if they fail to light it on time, they will edit around it or they will not upload it. They've got the perfect dry grass and they walked around forever and, oh, look how easy this is. I just went and grabbed it and oh, look at this. And I'm talking lighting a fire with like a lighter. I mean, I'm not saying go rub sticks together or you're not a real prepper. Have a ferro rod and a lighter on you at all times or you're not a real prepper. Just the arrangement of the fuel and how to light a fire, assuming the ignition source is already there, that's huge. So I thought I'd throw that in because you might think, oh, I do already know how to do this. I just haven't practiced it, but I know how to do it. I've watched 10 different tutorials on how to do this or do that, or, light a fire or stitch up a wound, which, that's an example of something you can't go practice in real life safely, but, lighting a fire, if you think you know how to do it, go try to actually do it. Assemble the stuff and, oh, this is wet, this is dry, this is out of season, this is green, I was mistaken about this isn't as flammable as I thought, oh, this is actually wet on the inside. You're going to run into that, and to do it now and be able to adapt and figure out what you did wrong and then do it successfully, yeah. So I wanted to throw that in because it doesn't merit its own video. But if you tell somebody, hey, let's take this class together, okay, now you better not duck out because they said yes. Put $20 down on the ticket or whatever. Or arrange travel, set aside the weekend. I mean, if you and somebody are going to take a 3-day weekend and go do a thing, take a class, or to save some money and go just do something yourself, practice it, go camping, go whatever, go play airsoft, go light some campfires. Go to a cooking class, mention it to your spouse if you have one. Just say, hey, let's go take a cooking class. Because now you have to actually follow through because you told someone. It's accountability mixed with, like, not the sunk cost fallacy, just like an actual sunk cost. Like, you have actually sunk money into it, or resources, or time, or days off. Like, now you're really going to do it. So if you kind of set yourself up for that, you're going to find the circumstances that you set up dragging yourself to it. So those are my two best ways to actually get out there and do the stuff that you are putting off. But let's get back to the stuff that's fun, because why not? Do it first. So the third and last one for this video is exercising. I know, you already clicked off the video by, no, I'm just kidding. There is a part of your brain that just anytime something physical needs to be done, it'll say no. And it's a survival thing, because if squirrels just ran around for the fun of it and it wasn't productive and they just had fun doing it and it was enjoyable and felt good, they would die. But you need to get past that. You need to identify it and get past it. Just like every time I'm angry, my brain tells me to punch someone. Yes, but you need to get past that. Every time I see a big pile of candy or a cake, I want to eat the whole thing because my brain is like, do that. Well, you need to switch that off. You're not going to be a very successful person. So assuming you're not morbidly obese and or in prison, you've learned to get past those things. So what you also need to get past is just the sedentary laziness, in the back of your head that says, I could go do this, but it's physical. I'm not going to do it. Talk to anyone who didn't exercise for a while and then started, how they felt the next day, the next week, the next month. Do they regret it? Unless they have some kind of critical health problem, or they did it wrong, or went way too hard, or injured themselves, or just made a basic mistake. If you just go do light to medium cardio, now I'm not a doctor, it's not medical advice, consult a doctor, obviously. But if you're like in shape and you're like, no, I'm not fat, I'm like 21 and I'm 160 pounds, I'm fine. How far can you run without having to stop? I think I saw a study that said even in shape people, because my God, morbidly obese people, it's like 50 feet, or just zero, they ain't getting started in the first place because they can't run. Even relatively healthy people can make it, I think it's under 1,000 feet on average. Well, you need to get further than 1,000 feet from a building collapsing, an earthquake, a shooting, like real actual daily stuff that happens, and it's a whole blanket thing. When you need to get away from something that is happening, you got to be able to run. Now, the other thing is they found that when people worked out, just did like cardio, that's it, for like a pretty short amount of time every other day, they were able to pretty much universally jog a mile without stopping. After going from never exercise for like a year to get back into it lightly, they were back in it. And it's all because of metabolism, but I'm not going to make this the whole like diet and exercise video. I will just say the energy level, the improvement in mood, just how you feel. I mean, you've heard the term runner's high. You've heard like the people who lose a bunch of weight, get down to a healthy weight, and then still go to the gym because they're like, I just got used to it. I miss it. I'm like addicted to it. It's because you feel so unbelievably good afterwards. You feel so much better. And then you start to notice how much worse you feel when you don't do something. You sit around for a week and you're like, man, I just feel mopey. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel like doing anything. Get out there and exercise. You have to. You can do just about anything for free. I mean, jogging, walking, bicycle riding, just basic gym membership. I mean, it's not the most expensive thing in the world, and it'll keep you alive in the long run and the short run. It's just, you need to do it. But the only thing keeping you from it is like, oh, I let myself get to such a state that it is not enjoyable because, obesity, age, whatever, physical state, or injuries incurred because you did something but weren't physically capable to do it and like hurt yourself. Don't get to that point. Then you're flirting with it being too late. So I assure you, and once again, ask a doctor based on your like health and, consult someone who's not me before you start anything like this. But if you just get out there and start just doing some basic stuff, I read another study, because I don't know, I read a lot of news, that said the bare minimum amount of exercise to still see a noticeable improvement in something was 30 minutes 3 times a week. Anybody can do that. I get it. You don't like to get sweaty. You don't like to waste your time. You don't like to drive all the way to the gym. And then, what if they're closed? What if, this, that, or the other thing? What if it's full? Oh, what if my phone runs out of batteries? But like, it is the easiest thing to just turn on a 30-minute YouTube video and just like switch your brain off and just jump on the elliptical. I gotta say, I felt like crap this weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, if you didn't look at the date. And I was just like, you know what? I haven't been to the gym in like a week and a half or like 2 weeks. And when I did go, it was, I'm kind of coming off of a small injury, then an illness. So, I haven't heavily exercised for a bit. Well, I went today and I'm already feeling it. You can see my energy level in this is nuts. And I was like falling asleep at my computer this morning after getting a full night of sleep. That's pathetic. I was doing yard work and I was getting winded. I'm like, this is unacceptable. But I kept thinking, do I really want to do it? Oh, I could just do this. Oh, I should do that. I put this off. I should do this household task. I'm just like, you know what? No, nothing comes ahead of my health. I'm making excuses. I'm just going to get there. And now I feel way better. I'm fully awake. I'm not sore. I'm not tired. And I kind of stopped before I got sweaty, jumped off, took a breather, jumped on for another 15, stopped before I got sweaty. So I don't even need to shower. But I feel so much better. So I would strongly encourage everybody to just get on that because it is enjoyable, the feeling that you will get and the results that you get. You will just feel so much better. You got to get past that initial barrier that tells you, no, physical equals bad. No, it's going to be bad. So, hey, if you have any other suggestions of things that pretty much everybody across the board thinks is fun, enjoyable, and an interesting thing to do or learn or practice or, whatever, leave them down in the comments section because, this is a very community-driven channel. And you guys come up with some crazy good tips and additions and, alternate ways of doing stuff that I always appreciate. Thumbs up, pin, all that. So the comment section is golden on this channel. Also, every single comment is held for review by me, by the way. I can still moderate that at this level of traffic on this particular channel. So it's going to be very peaceful and calm and civil and not filled with bots and spam. So feel free to scroll down and take a look, whether you're posting or just reading. And if you got this far in the video, you probably like my content. We got all kinds of stuff. And I think the most relevant similar content to this video would be when I take stuff that I think I know or that I've heard that I've just been like, oh yeah, that's how you do that. And then actually test it. Because about half the time it doesn't work and it's completely wrong. Or it's a complete myth and I didn't even know it. Or I did know it was a myth and just wanted to debunk it. And then half the time it works even better than I thought. I'm like, wow, this is even easier than they make it look. So product reviews, technique reviews, prepper, myth busting, no relation to the original Discovery Channel series. I mean, we do it all here, so subscribe if you want some more cool content or just something to watch while you're at the gym. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time.